The droid's words softly, as I moved through the dimly lit Jedi intelligence headquarters. The air was thick with protocol and suspicion, every comlink whispering about potential threats. I paused before a door, marked top secret, its surface shimmering under the glow of the lightsaber emblems. The protocol dictated that all Jedi must be monitored for descent loyalty was now measured in data points. A hologram flickered to life as I approached, showing my reflection and a stern message. Proceed with caution. Breaches are low. I stepped inside, the room filled with screens displaying faces of trusted colleagues. Each one was labeled with a code that represented their latest risk score. One face stood out mine. The score had spiked, not because of any known dissent, but due to my recent interactions with Averin, the head of field operations who was always wary of my methods. Averin's eyes met mine from across the room. He knew the protocol too well. Our alliance was based on mutual distrust. Any news? I asked tersely, as we shook hands. Not yet, he replied, his voice a low growl. But they're watching us. I nodded, my mind racing. The protocol had changed. Everything it wasn't just about protecting the Republic anymore. It was about controlling every Jedi thought and action. A knock sounded at the door, interrupting our silence. A new droid entered with a stack of reports. Your briefing, the droid said before exiting. I glanced at Averin, who picked up one report and flipped through its pages. This could go either way. As I began to read, my gaze flicked back to the door. What if our loyalty was just another metric on this endless list of surveillance? The room seemed to close in around me. And what would happen when they found out we were supposed to be allies? How Jedi surveillance breaks trust. A single droid watches from a corner, its lens ever vigilant. I stand watch at the HoloNet terminal, my eyes scanning for any unauthorized access attempts. The rule is clear, every communication must be monitored. I press a button to silence the terminal's hum, feeling the weight of constant scrutiny. A message flares, on the screen another inquisition from Jedi intelligence. Who decides? What needs watching? As I log in, a chill runs down my spine. Trust is no longer about loyalty. It's about compliance. How long can this go on before everyone loses their faith? The HoloNet terminal flickers with static as Aava taps into an encrypted channel. I watch my eyes narrowing at the unfamiliar code. All communications must be monitored within 5 minutes of transmission for unauthorized access. Averin leans closer, his breath visible in the chill air. What's that? His voice is low, but urgent. I shrug, feigning ignorance. Just a routine check. The screen displays a message from a known ally, but I can't decipher its contents. Ava's face tightens, her hands clenching around the terminal. If this message contains evidence of dissent, our cover will be blown, and both of us could face execution for treason. Averin steps back, his expression shifting to one of suspicion. You said it was routine. Wow, when? Neither deal. No. I meet his gaze, trying to read his thoughts. His eyes are a mix of fear and determination, like mine. Yet, the very system we're supposed to protect is turning on us. Can I trust Averin not to report this? Or will our loyalty be tested again, in ways neither of us expected? Ava's fingers dance over the HoloNet terminal, her eyes never leaving the encrypted message. I watch as Aava hesitates, her brow furrowed. The rule mandates constant surveillance, but in this moment, I wonder if it's more about loyalty than security. Ava, Violet finally glances at me, a mixture of tension and resolve in her gaze. "We need to decipher this," she whispers urgently. "Well, Kara, but we can't risk Averin seeing our screen." "Widen, now dement der Nachalan, intertwine, dark." She quickly closes the channel and activates a backup terminal. "Mr. Jankwenmark." As I turn away, I hear the droid's steady hum, punctuated by Ava's soft clicks. A micro scene. Moments later, Aava returns with a grim expression. "It's a warning," she says quietly. "Someone has been watching us closely." The consequence. Aava's trust in our mutual ally is shaken, and the constant surveillance now feels like an intrusion that could cost lives. Standing beside Aava, we both understand that the next step could blur the lines between loyalty and betrayal. I watch Ava intently as she deciphers the message. The rule mandates constant surveillance. Every transmission is scrutinized for signs of dissent. Aava's fingers dance over the controls, her brow furrowed in concentration. Suddenly, a series of blips appear on the screen data packets, being transmitted to an unknown destination. "Be careful," Averin's voice whispers from behind me, but I barely hear it. Ava confirms the data leak and looks up sharply at Averin, whose eyes meet mine with a mixture of guilt and resolve. She places a hand on his shoulder, trying to reassure him. "Missed," but her trust is waning as she realizes they are being watched by forces unknown. "How long have you known?" she demands. "Oh, there were help soon, but pretty bad." Averin hesitates, then admits long enough. "The truth hangs between us like a dagger." "Well, one I don't know." Ava's eyes narrow, and she turns back to the terminal, her hand hovering over the send button. "If we report this, it could jeopardize their mission. If we ignore it, the leak endangers everyone. Send it," I urge softly, my voice barely above a whisper. "But be careful." The rule mandates constant monitoring, but it's clear now that the true threat lies within the walls of the Jedi intelligence itself. Aava hesitates one more moment before tapping the send key. The transmission goes out, but will it reach its intended recipient in time? As she turns back to her work, I wonder if Averin and I can truly be trusted by anyone here. Aava's fingers dance over the HoloNet terminal, decrypting the message. Her eyes widen as she reads the damning evidence of betrayal. "Someone is leaking information," Aava whispers, her voice barely a breath. "And it's not just any ally, it could be anyone here." I glance at Averin, whose expression remains impassive. The rule mandates we report every anomaly, but the true purpose of each message remains shrouded in mystery. Averin leans closer to me, his eyes narrowing as he studies my reaction. "Why are you so quick to doubt us?" he asks, his voice low and threatening. "Perhaps the real threat isn't from outside." Ava's warning is stark. The leak could destabilize everything they've worked for. The room feels charged with tension, the air thick with unspoken questions. "Let's send this message," Aava says, her tone resigned. "We can't afford to ignore it." I hesitate, unsure if I should relay the information or keep it hidden. The rule demands transparency, but loyalty is now a dangerous game. The terminal hums as the message is transmitted, its fate uncertain in the vastness of the HoloNet. What if Averin has already intercepted and altered the data? Ava's eyes meet mine, a silent plea for trust. But can I truly believe him when he seems more interested in loyalty than security? The true threat remains hidden, waiting to strike. Ava's fingers danced over the HoloNet terminal, each keystroke more urgent than the last. The rule was clear. Report any anomaly. But what if the anomaly was right here? The screen flickered to life, displaying a transmission from an unknown source. Messages scrolled by, in rapid succession jumbled code and fragmented thoughts. Ava's mind raced as she decoded the message. Reported protocol. requires immediate transmission of suspicious data. That's when an sent a door. There is breath caught. Unwavering, unencrypted of an spread, and the system's surveillance protocols were designed for external threats. But what if this was internal? What if the anomaly was Averin himself? She glanced at her ally, who stood a few feet away, his expression unreadable. Trust had been a fragile thing in these times of constant vigilance. Ava pressed the transmit button, the terminal's red light blaring a warning. The message sent, the screen went dark. Silence followed, heavy and pregnant with uncertainty. But the silence was broken by Averin's voice. Did you just do that? Ava didn't answer, her eyes fixed on the now empty HoloNet terminal. What if this wasn't about external enemies? What if it was about something far more insidious? The room's air grew colder, the weight of the decision pressing down on both of them. Ava's fingers dance over the HoloNet terminal as she deciphers the message, her breath coming in short, rapid bursts. Averin stands stoically beside her, his gaze fixed on the screen, but his eyes betray a flicker of unease. The rule states, all anomalies must be reported immediately. Ava hesitates, then sends the transmission to Jedi High Command. The silence stretches, thick and oppressive, as if the very air is holding its breath. Averin's jaw tightens, and for a moment their shared tension seems to pulse between them like an unspoken question. The terminal emits a soft beep signaling receipt of the message. Ava's heart sinks as she waits for a response, her mind racing with the implications. If this is indeed a threat from within, they might just be the ones leading the enemy straight into their camp. The final sentence flickers in and out of visibility. Can we truly trust each other when loyalty is measured in transmissions? Ava's fingers hover over the transmit button, her breath catching as she glances at Averin. The control room is cloaked in shadows, the only light from the flickering HoloNet terminal, casting eerie patterns on their faces. Are you sure about this? Averin's voice breaks the silence, his tone cautious, yet tinged with a hint of uncertainty. Ava nods, her heart pounding. We have to report it. It could be a traitor within our ranks. She presses the button, and the message sends, followed by an unsettling beep from the terminal, a confirmation that the transmission was successful. The silence that follows is heavy, charged with unspoken doubts. Averin's expression remains neutral, but his eyes flicker with something akin to fear or warning. Remember, he says softly, loyalty is now measured in reports. The rule bites hard, making trust a commodity on the HoloNet. Ava turns away from the terminal, her mind racing with possibilities. Who could be spying? No. How many are truly loyal among them? What if Averin's own silence and hesitation are more dangerous than any traitor's message? Ava's fingers hover over the HoloNet terminal as she types out the critical message. Averin stands beside her, his expression unreadable. The terminal hums softly, confirming the transmission with a final beat. If this goes wrong, Averin whispers, it could tear apart everything we've built. Ava glances at him sharply, her heart pounding. The rule mandates reporting anomalies, but how can she trust someone who might be hiding secrets? The terminal's prompt flashes. Anomaly detected, proceed with caution. Their mission now hinges on a delicate balance of transparency and suspicion. I know. Ava wonders if the true threat lies not in external enemies, but within their own ranks. What will they find when the truth is revealed? Ava taps the HoloNet terminal again, her fingers poised over the confirmation button. The room is quiet, the only sound, the steady hum of machinery in the background. Averin stands a few steps away, his expression unreadable. Are you sure? This is wise? Right, we're in a state. Averin asks, his voice low and cautious. What if someone intercepts our transmission? Ava hesitates, then nods resolutely. Well, we have to report it. The protocol dictates that any anomaly must be flagged. The terminal confirms the message's transmission with a sharp beep. Sir, Avinkal. I knew sir, they are distinct now, right? Ava watches as the screen blinks to black, signaling the end of their communication. Who do you think could be behind this? What? Averin asks, his eyes narrowing. It's not like we have many friends left in this war. My church is still at that way. Then you have the can this work, can this way, send days secret. Ava tightens her grip on the console, her mind racing with possibilities. We can't afford to ignore it, she replies. Though a chill runs down her spine at the thought of betrayal, the terminal's prompt flashes again, highlighting the risk of internal threats. Aava and Averin both know that trust has become a fragile commodity in their line of work. The question now is, how far can they truly rely on each other? As the control room falls silent once more, Aava wonders aloud, what if we're all just pawns in someone else's game? Ava's fingers dance over the HoloNet terminal. As she sends the encrypted message, Averin stands beside her, his eyes never leaving the door. Rules dictate, reporting any deviation. Aava taps out the final code and hits send. The screen flickers with confirmation. The message is on its way. Suddenly, a shadow passes by outside their office window. Both freeze, hearts pounding. Averin whispers, "Do you see that?" "Probably just a janitor," Aava replies, though her voice wavers slightly. She reaches for the emergency protocols, but hesitates. The shadow shifts again, and a figure steps into view. Flashing lights from a hidden scanner reveal it's an intelligence operative. Aava and Averin exchange horrified glances. Failure to report could mean severe repercussions. The cold realization hits them both hard. Ava dials the emergency protocol, her hands trembling as she inputs the code. "Red alert," she whispers, her voice barely above a whisper. The door hisses open, and 3 operatives flood in, their faces blank. Ava's mind races. What will they find? She turns to Averin, her eyes pleading for understanding. "Our sister now at Weston. Matter don't get shed. Shouldn't we run?" "Sense," Averin asks, his voice strained. She shakes her head. "No, Marek. Why switching that? Last night. We need to finish this." Ava presses on, her heart heavy, with the knowledge that every action, every word, is now under scrutiny. Trust has been shattered, beyond repair. Well, the operatives approach, their presence a stark reminder of the thin line between loyalty and betrayal in this endless war. Ava's fingers dance across the HoloNet terminal, her breath ragged as she feeds the final code. Averin stands behind her, his eyes scanning for any sign of intelligence operatives closing in. Protocol dictates, report any unauthorized access within 3 minutes or face severe repercussions. The red alert blinks ominously on the screen, a stark reminder of the trust they've just shattered. Ava's heart pounds as she sends the encrypted message, the transmission confirming their safe passage, but the terminal flickers and dies, cut off by the emergency protocol. Niceness and powering have just protocol, and showing the Nazi protocol. Averin's expression turns to concern. They need to find an alternative communication method quickly. They dash towards the airlock, but a sudden burst of force fields blocks their path. Intelligence has anticipated their move and set up an ambush. Ava's grip tightens on her blaster as she prepares for confrontation. "Stay sharp," Averin whispers, his voice steady despite the tension. The door to the airlock swings open, revealing a squad of armed operatives. Ava's heart races as she faces the uncertain future. How much more will they have to sacrifice before this war truly ends? Ava's heart pounded as she sprinted down the corridor. Aava and Averin sprint down the dimly lit hallway, their breaths ragged against the cold metal wall. The countdown clock blinks ominously. They can hear the distant hum of approaching drones growing louder. Protocol 216 mandates a no reverse option once triggered. With this final rule, Aava realizes that the only way out is through the unknown area ahead, where Thrawn's surveillance might be weakest. They push open the concealed panel and find themselves in a dimly lit chamber filled with complex machinery. Averin's eyes widen as they scan the room, searching for any sign of an escape route or hidden danger. The countdown reaches 0. The drones flood into the corridor behind them, their lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air hums with tension as Aava and Averin must choose between the known dangers outside and the unknown threats within. Aava's fingers brush against a control panel, her heart pounding. "We have to try," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the approaching drones. They dash towards the machinery, their footsteps echoing in the confined space. Averin activates a lever, but nothing happens. The countdown clock blinks dangerously low. Josh Simmer cannot in rack, or antibiotic a dinotail. Ava's hand trembles as she reaches for another control. Nanistigidra, our witchin, and our in the control at it go. What if we're walking into something worse? She asks, her voice filled with fear and uncertainty. The room suddenly lights up, revealing hidden passages and security protocols. Averin's eyes narrow in determination. "We don't have a choice," they say, their resolve hardening. As the drones close in, they race towards a narrow passage leading deeper into the unknown. The final sentence lingers. Will their gamble pay off? Will they fall victim to Thrawn's relentless surveillance? Aava and Averin sprint through the dimly lit chamber, their breaths ragged as they activate hidden passages. The drone's whirring grows louder, their lights casting eerie shadows across the walls. Protocol 216 forbids reverse options. They must proceed or face capture. Aava glances at Averin, who nods grimly, and together they dive into a narrow tunnel. The tunnel twists and turns, leading them deeper into the complex labyrinth. Suddenly, the lights flicker out, plunging them into darkness. Aava fumbles for her light stick, but it fails to ignite. Averin reaches for his own, his fingers trembling as he struggles to activate it. "What's happening?" Averin whispers, fear creeping into his voice. Before they can react, a series of low hums resonate through the tunnel, and the walls begin to close in around them. The space narrows until Aava and Averin are forced to crouch, their backs pressed against the cold stone. Protocol 216's mandate of no reverse options has sealed their fate. They must find a way out or be trapped forever in this dark, endless corridor. Will their trust in Protocol 216 lead them to safety or doom? Intelligence Averin. Ava intelligence Averin Aava. Ava Averin intelligence Ava Averin. Ava and Averon sprint down the dimly lit corridor, their breaths coming in short gasps. The airlock door clicks open just as they reach it, but before they can escape, a shadowy figure appears from the darkness. A lone intelligence operative. "Drop your blaster," the figure commands, voice cold and menacing. Aava hesitates for an instant, then complies, her heart racing. Averin mirrors her action, both knowing the risk of being caught. The red alert on the HoloNet terminal blinks ominously, signaling their betrayal to anyone within the base's surveillance network. "Let's go," Averin whispers urgently, pulling Aava towards a nearby ventilation shaft. They scramble into it, the air thick with tension as they navigate the narrow ducts. The operative follows them, firing the warning shot that ricochets off the metal walls. Aava feels the heat of the blast, her fingers tingling from the close call. She knows they have seconds to make their escape before intelligence can seal the ventilation system entirely. They emerge into another corridor, this one clearer and less guarded. Aava and Averin run towards a maintenance hatch, hoping it will provide an exit. As they approach, the hatch suddenly locks shut, trapping them inside. "Damn it," Aava curses. her mind racing as she searches for another way out. The red alert continues to pulse on the HoloNet terminal, broadcasting their location across the base. What if intelligence catches up before we can escape? Aava and Averin scramble through the narrow ducts, their hearts pounding with each shot fired behind them. The cold metal walls seem to close in as they dash towards a junction, where another vent opens up. The protocol mandates immediate reporting of any unauthorized access. The red alert will be visible on every terminal, drawing more attention. With no time to spare, Aava yanks open the hatch, and they squeeze through just as the intelligence operative bursts into the ducts. The sudden silence is almost deafening as they tumble out into a storage room, gasping for air. Averin pulls out his blaster and scans the area, but there's no one in sight. The HoloNet terminal hums menacingly, its red alert now visible on the screen, broadcasting their location to every intelligence outpost. How long until they're caught? Aava's breath catches as she spots a security droid approaching. The protocol is clear, immediate reporting of unauthorized access. She glances at Averin, who nods grimly. They must find a way to disable the terminal without raising suspicion. The droid scans the room, its red light piercing the darkness. Aava seizes Averin's hand, silently urging him forward. With a swift motion, she pulls out a small disruptor from her cloak and aims it at the droid's power core. "Quick," she whispers. Averin hesitates, then nods. Together, they activate the disruptor just as the droid turns their way. Its systems stutter, shutting down moments before its sensors could detect them. Aava and Averin collapse against the wall, panting heavily. The protocol mandates that any unauthorized access be reported immediately, which means their hiding place is now exposed to all intelligence outposts. Should we move? Well, one day, Mr. But should we move? Why? Averin asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Aava considers the risk. They need to get closer to the source of the red alert, but staying in this storage room won't cut it anymore. "We need to find another way in," she says, her mind racing for a new plan. But as they stand there, the silence stretching out, Aava can't shake the feeling that their loyalty is being tested. Trust has been shattered by the very protocols designed to protect it. Aava crept through the dimly lit corridors, Averin close behind. The chill of the night air matched her growing unease. The protocol requires any breach to be reported within 2 minutes. Time was running out. They approached a junction where a security console hummed softly. Aava hesitated, knowing they couldn't linger. She reached for the console, fingers hovering over the activation panel. Averin whispered, "We can't report this or we get caught," Aava finished. "But if we don't, who will?" She tapped in a code and a screen flickered to life, displaying a map of the facility. Red dots pulsed like heartbeat monitors, indicating security droids on patrol. Ava's heart pounded as she navigated the map, trying to find an unpatrolled route. Averin watched her every move, tension visible in his stance. The protocol dictates that any breach must be documented and reported immediately. Aava glanced at the screen again, each dot a reminder of their exposure. "Which way now?" "Which way? No," Averin asked softly. "Mission anyway. I know we're going to find tonight." Aava pointed to a shadowy corner, her finger tracing an unlikely path. "That's our best shot." They crept down the corridor, the sound of their breath echoing off the walls. The protocol was relentless, its grip tightening like a noose around their necks. Would they find the source of the red alert before their cover blew? Ava's hand slips over Averin's shoulder as they sprint down a darkened corridor. Aava carefully taps into the security console, her fingers dancing across the interface. The protocol mandates immediate reporting of unauthorized access, but silence is crucial. They reach an unpatrolled section, the air stale and heavy with tension. Averin glances back nervously, their eyes locking for a brief moment before continuing forward. Ava's heart races as she discovers a hidden door in the wall. With one swift motion, she opens it to reveal a small cluttered room filled with data terminals. Averin's breath catches as they step inside, knowing this could be their breakthrough or their undoing. The protocol mandates immediate reporting, but silence is crucial to avoid detection. As Aava begins to search the terminals, a sudden beep from her comm unit startles them both. The red alert is still active and drawing closer. Meister Gunbargi. Averin's eyes widen as they realize the danger. What now? What now? Ava's fingers fly over the console, trying to override the protocol. We have to find out who's behind this, she whispers, her voice steady but urgent. But we need to stay silent. Measure about that. And we, Mr. Branger, out the direction, Pratt. The room hums with the low thrum of data, processing as Aava sifts through the information. The red alert grows louder in the background, a constant reminder of their vulnerability. Can they uncover the truth before the protocol catches up with them? Aava tugged Averin towards a narrow passage behind a stack of crates. The corridor ahead was empty, but the hiss of approaching footsteps echoed through the facility. Every second counts as they risk being discovered by the approaching officers. They crouched as two intelligence officers rounded the corner, their lightsabers at the ready. Ava's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a warning signal. Averin whispered, "We need to get to the main server core." As soon as the officers passed, they dashed towards a hidden door. Inside, a console hummed with data. Aava entered commands, fingers flying over the keyboard. Protocol requires logging all access. Any deviation will alert higher-ups instantly. Red alerts now flashing on the screen. Ava's breath came in short gasps. The server core was locked down. She had to override it quickly, or risk being discovered. What if their cover is already blown? And this is just a delay before they're caught. Ava's breath fogged the screen as they tapped frantically at the terminal. Aava and Averin's fingers danced over the console, trying to override the security protocols. Time seemed to slow as they raced against the impending red alert. When protocol dictates that any unauthorized access triggers immediate lockdown protocols, sealing off all exits. Suddenly, the lights flickered and a siren wailed. The automated doors began to close with ominous precision, cutting them off from escape. Ava's heart pounded as they realized their only path lay through the heavily guarded server core. Ava's fingers dance over the console, her breath hot against the cold metal. "We need to find the override," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the distant hum of servers. The server core is a labyrinth of glowing blue data streams and humming machinery. Averin steps close, his presence an unwelcome chill in the air. "They're watching us, Aava. Every keystroke, every breath." Aava glances nervously at the locked database terminal. The automated lockdown system blinks red, his voice a harsh electronic tone. "Access denied. Protocol 3744 is active." Averin's expression hardens. "We have to breach it," he says, his eyes narrowing. He pulls out a small sleek device from his pocketer tool. They scavenged from an old Jedi cell. The device hums softly as Aava connects it to the terminal. The screen flickers and then stabilizes, revealing a layer of encrypted data. "This is it," she says, her voice steady despite the tension. She types rapidly, her fingers barely visible in the dim light. Averin stands watch, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of intrusion. The seconds stretch into minutes as Aava works feverishly. Her hands begin to shake, and a bead of sweat rolls down her temple. "I'm almost there," she mutters. Suddenly, the terminal screen goes black, and a voice crackles over the intercom. "Unauthorized access detected. Initiating protocol shutdown." Averin's face contorts with frustration. No, he exclaims, his voice filled with desperation. The server room lights flicker, and Ava's heart pounds as she realizes they are about to be cut off entirely. We have to move now, she yells over the growing darkness. They sprint towards the exit, but the door is locked tight. Averin grinds his teeth in anger. There's a manual override on the wall, he says, pointing at a panel. Avara reaches for it, her fingers trembling with exertion and fear. The room is now pitch black, save for the faint glow of their lightsabers. She fumbles with the lock, her mind racing as she wonders if they'll make it out in time. Keep moving, Averin urges, his voice barely audible over the echo of their footsteps. The door finally clicks open, but just as they are about to dash through, a harsh red light flickers on another security system has engaged. Aava and Averin exchange a look of sheer dread before they bolt into the dark, uncertain corridor ahead. Ava's breath came in ragged gasps as she and Averin skidded to a halt. The hallway ahead was filled with blinking red lights and the faint hum of servers. Protocol 214 engages. Averin hissed, his voice strained. Every door is now locked. Ava quickly typed commands into a terminal, her fingers flying over the keyboard. We need to disable it, manually. Aava held her breath and hoped she could distract the security forces. The lights dimmed, and Ava's heart raced as she tapped in the last command. The red light blinked once, twice indicating failure. Failed, Averin growled, his eyes scanning for any other exit. There's no backup override. Nanaisho, Atumacho, meltdown Besta, and a shin bride. Aava spun around, her face a mix of determination and desperation. We need to find another way out. This isn't the only path in this facility. They moved down the hallway, their footsteps echoing off the cold walls. Ava's hand hovered over her lightsaber, ready to draw it at any moment. More servers lined the walls of the room, yet a small maintenance area offered some respite on one side. Aava approached cautiously, her senses heightened. Maybe there's a way to. No, turn out. One needs so. Dark out. A red light suddenly flashed on the opposite wall, signaling an approaching security team. What now? Averin whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. Oh. Ava's mind raced as she considered their options. We can't go back. Let's look for an alternative path. She won't own. Let's look for an alternative path. As they turned to leave, the hallway ahead was suddenly illuminated by the harsh lights of a security patrol. Ava's heart pounded as she and Averin ducked behind a row of servers. The security light flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows across the corridor. Protocol 214 had locked all exits, leaving them in a dead end. They sprinted down the maintenance tunnel, their footsteps echoing off cold metal walls. Suddenly, the ground trembled as a security team rounded the corner, their lights scanning the area. Aava and Averin froze, hearts pounding. We have to go through the data vault, Averin whispered urgently, his voice barely audible over the whir of machinery. Aava nodded, glancing at the locked door, labeled Access Restricted Protocol 215. The protocol would release a toxic gas if breached, but it was their only chance. Let's do this. They rushed to the control panel, fingers flying across the interface. Ava's breath came in quick bursts as she keyed in the override sequence. The screen glowed with an ominous countdown. The security team reached them, weapons at the ready. Aava and Averin leaped into action, dodging and weaved between servers. One of the security droids aimed a blaster at Averin, but he ducked just in time, slicing through the droid's arm with his lightsaber. Aava hit the final override button as security closed in. The door slid open with a metallic screech, revealing a dimly lit vault filled with ancient data terminals. Protocol 215 engaged, and a low hum began to fill the air, signaling the impending gas release. They dashed inside, their lungs burning as the toxic fumes began to cloud the room. Ava's vision blurred, and she stumbled, nearly losing her balance on the slick floor. Averin grabbed her arm. We can't stay here long, he said, his voice strained. Find what we need, then get out. The last of the data terminals flickered to life as they approached, their screens filling with encrypted messages. Ava's fingers flew over the console, decrypting codes faster than she could think. As the gas thickened around them, Aava felt a surge of adrenaline. She knew the risk trust in the Jedi intelligence had been shattered by these very protocols. But there was no time to consider it further. The truth they sought lay just beyond their reach. What secrets would they uncover? And at what cost? Aava and Averin burst into the data vault, their breaths ragged as they hacked through the encryption. Protocol 216 suddenly activates, initiating a toxic gas release from hidden vents. The air turns thick with acrid fumes. Aava grabs Averin's arm. We need to get out of here. They dash towards the main console, fingers flying over the keys, as the room fills with choking smoke. The Ava's eyes water, but she forces herself to focus, entering a command that overrides the gas release protocol. The hiss of escaping air is their only relief, until the floor beneath them starts to vibrate. Averin, look! The data vault door begins to slide shut, sealing them inside with the toxic fumes. Damn it, Averin mutters. How long will we hold out? The question hangs in the thickening air, as they realize their escape is now more uncertain than ever. Aava and Averin hack through the final layer of encryption, their breaths quickening as the air becomes thick with fumes. The data vault door seals shut behind them. The hissing sound, a death knell. Protocol 216 activates, initiating a gas release sequence that will engulf the entire server core in minutes. Ava's hands tremble as she types frantically, her heart pounding against her ribcage. Got it, Averin whispers, his voice barely audible over the alarm. We have to get out now. No. Aava nods, turning to face the sealed door. But Protocol 217 is already engaged, setting up a blast barrier that will prevent them from leaving the vault. The air pressure builds, pushing at their lungs. Damn it. Averin curses, his eyes wide with panic. We're trapped. Ava's fingers fly over the console, trying to override the protocols. Sweat mixes with the toxic fumes as she struggles against time and technology. The blast barrier activates with a loud boom, sealing them inside the data vault. The gas begins to seep in, filling their lungs with each labored breath. Think of something else, Aava whispers, her voice cracking. There must be another way. Must be another way. A final hiss sounds as the gas reaches critical levels. Aava and Averin huddle together, their last moments filled with silent prayers and unspoken fears. The humming of data storage units echoes through the vault. Aava clenches her lightsaber, hilt tighter, her breath coming in short gasps. Protocol 216 demands the activation of emergency protocols to prevent unauthorized access. Averin's eyes dart around, searching for a hidden exit. There has to be another way, he whispers, his voice barely audible over the hissing of the gas. Aava points at a vent on the ceiling. That might work if we can find a way to seal it. No. They move towards it, their movements slow and deliberate. Protocol 216 forces them to initiate self-destruct sequences as a last resort. The sound of footsteps, distant but growing closer, sends a chill down Ava's spine. We need to act now, she says, her fingers sliding over the vents mechanism. They fumble with the controls, Averin's hands shaking slightly. The gas is thickening, clouding their vision. Suddenly, a loud alarm blares, cutting off their frantic efforts. The self-destruct sequence has already been initiated, and they have only minutes left before the vault's structural integrity fails. Aava looks at the rapidly filling room, her heart pounding. "We're running out of time," she says, her voice tight. "What if we're not quick enough?" Ava's breath was ragged as she hammered the vent seal with a clawed hand. The clawed hand. Averin's lightsaber hummed beside her, ready to slice through any obstruction. Protocol 216 dictates self-destruct in 3 minutes. The comlink crackled with Averin's voice. "Do you see another exit?" "No," Avar panted, gritting her teeth against the gas that burned her throat. "This is it." The footsteps grew louder, a mechanical thrum echoing through the vault. The protocol was designed to ensure they stayed put. Aava glanced at the countdown timer on the console. 1:45 remaining. She needed to find another way out before Protocol 216 sealed them in. With a deep breath, she turned her back to Averin and moved toward the far wall, hand resting on the hilt of her lightsaber. The gas was thickening, making every breath harder. The door at the end of the vault began to slide open, revealing a small panel labeled Escape Route. Ava's heart pounded as she approached it, fingers trembling with urgency. The timer blinks. 1:30. What lies beyond that door? Ava wondered, her mind racing. Trust or betrayal? Ninster, unresounding weight. Down. Ava's breath hitches as she hears heavy footsteps echo through the vault. Aava and Averin frantically seal the vent, their hands moving with practiced urgency. The door to the escape rope looms just ahead. But Protocol 216 mandates self-destruct in only 30 seconds. Protocol 216 overrides all other systems. There's no bypassing it manually. With a final twist of the lock, they hear the hiss of gas slowing. The door opens, Averin rushes through, but Avar hesitates. Outside, the air is thick with tension and the scent of fear. As she steps out, Aava wonders if her trust in the Jedi Order has just been shattered. Aava and Averin push open the final panel of the vault door, just as the self-destruct timer ticks to 0. The air is thick with the metallic tang of Protocol 216 gas, but they've made it. They emerge into a dimly lit corridor lined with sensor arrays and surveillance drones. Outside, silence hangs too heavy. Her breath catches in her throat as she realizes they are not alone. Did you hear that? Averin whispers, his voice tight with tension. Before either can react, the walls of the corridor begin to pulse with an ominous blue light. Drones whir into life, their sensors scanning the area with ruthless efficiency. Protocol 216 dictates self-preservation for the drones. They won't give up until their targets are neutralized. The escape route is now blocked by a series of automated turrets and energy barriers. Ava's heart races as she looks at Averin, her eyes searching his face. "We can't go back," she says softly. "But we can't stay here either." With no other options, they turn to the only remaining path, a set of side doors leading deeper into the complex. The door hisses open, revealing a narrow hallway, lined with more sensor arrays. They sprint down it, their footsteps echoing off the cold walls. Ava's mind races. Every step is monitored, every breath recorded. She wonders if her loyalty to the Jedi Order will be enough to survive this night without breaking under the weight of constant surveillance. The corridor opens into a room filled with banks of holographic displays and control panels. At its center, stands a large terminal, its screen flickering with data streams. Aava knows they must find a way to override these systems before it's too late. But as she approaches, the terminal blinks off, leaving only static. The drones are closing in fast. They have less than 30 seconds. Aava and Averin race toward the terminal, their hands flying over the control panels, but the system is impenetrable, locked down by Protocol 216's strict protocol. They're trapped. Is there another way? Averin asks, his voice barely audible over the whirring of the approaching drones. Aava hesitates, her mind racing through every possible escape route. We need to find a weak point, she says, but as she looks around, all the exits are blocked by the same relentless force. Their only option left. Aava and Averin retreat to the entrance behind them, bracing themselves for any threat ahead. Aava and Averin sprint down the narrow hallway, their breaths ragged against the whine of approaching drones. Just as they turn a corner, a heavy lock hums into place, sealing off their escape route. Protocol 216 mandates isolation. No one can breach this barrier until the countdown ends. Aava spins around, her eyes scanning for an alternative exit. Averin grits his teeth, pressing a hand to the cold metal wall, trying every possible override sequence. Nothing works. Behind them, the drone's lights pulse ominously. Their omni-tools count down ominously, each second feeling like an eternity stretching the distance to freedom. Ava's heart pounds in her ears as she realizes the only way out is through. They will have to face whatever lies beyond those sealed doors. What horrors await them on the other side? Nisho, Nodorella, Menkistaknidapikal. Ava's boots clattered against the cold metal floor as she sprinted down the narrow hallway. Averin jogged beside her, his breath ragged but steady. Protocol 216 mandated a complete shutdown of all non-essential systems to prevent any potential breach. Drones whirred overhead, their lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. Aava pressed a hand against the sealed door, her fingers sliding over the cool metal as she counted down. 10, 9, 8. The door remained obstinately shut. Averin pulled out his utility knife and began to saw through the lock. Sweat dripped from his forehead onto the floor. 4, 3, 2. Ava's comlink crackled to life. A single word from Master Thrawn. Abort. The countdown reached 0. Unsettling and unsettling. Heading Sherry, a nation now. Our countdown reached 0. Protocol 216 initiated a complete system lockdown, isolating them in this corridor. Drones now patrolled relentlessly, their presence more insistent than ever. We need to find another way, Averin said, his voice strained. Or figure out what Thrawn wants from us. Aava replied, her heart pounding with fear and determination. A new light flickered on the far end of the corridor, drawing them both towards it. But as they approached, they noticed a security camera had activated, its lens trained directly on their path. What secrets does Thrawn keep hidden behind this surveillance? Aava and Averin sprint down the dimly lit hallway, their boots echoing off the cold metal walls. The countdown clock blinks intermittently, its digits taunting them with seconds lost. Protocol 216 mandates a full system lockdown. No unauthorized personnel may leave or enter until further notice. Aava reaches for the hidden panel beside the door, fingers fumbling as if in a dream. Averin grabs her arm, whispering, "Focus." The panel clicks open, revealing a small emergency hatch. They push it upwards, but the lift mechanism is jammed until Aava glances at the countdown only. 30 seconds left. They hear the whirring of approaching drones overhead. The flickering light reveals a narrow gap in the wall, barely wide enough for one person. Aava squirms through the gap, her body twisting and straining to fit inside the narrow opening. She hears Averin's gasp, and then feels a sharp pain in her side as she pushes him through after her. They fall to their knees on the other side, gasping for air. Mr. Ninkroad. The gap closes behind them, sealing them off from the outside world. The countdown clock ticks away, and they realize the only way out is back the way they came. Through the drones and the locked hallway. Should we have trusted the protocol? Alain made Sinter had blocked you. Averin asks, his voice barely a whisper. Eva doesn't answer, her mind racing with the implications of their situation. How far will Thrawn go to keep secrets? Aava and Averin scramble to their feet, their breaths ragged in the tight space. The countdown clock ticks ominously. They can hear the distant hum of approaching drones growing louder. Protocol 216 mandates a no reverse option once triggered. With this final rule, Aave realizes that the only way out is through the unknown area ahead, where Thrawn's surveillance might be weakest. They push open the concealed panel and find themselves in a dimly lit chamber filled with complex machinery. Averin's eyes widen as they scan the room, searching for any sign of an escape route or hidden danger. The countdown reaches 0. The drones flood into the corridor behind them, their lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air hums with tension as Aava and Averin must choose between the known dangers outside and the unknown threats within. Ava's fingers brush against a control panel, her heart pounding. "We have to try," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the approaching drones. They dash towards the machinery, their footsteps echoing in the confined space. Averin activates a lever, but nothing happens. Waste 7. Nothing happens. The countdown clock blinks dangerously low. Ave's hand trembles as she reaches for another control. "What if we're walking into something worse?" she asks, her voice filled with fear and uncertainty. The room suddenly lights up, revealing hidden passages and security protocols. But they're identical. Averin's eyes narrow in determination. "We don't have a choice," they say, their resolve hardening. As the drones close in, they race towards a narrow passage, leading deeper into the unknown. The final sentence lingers. Will their gamble pay off? Will they fall victim to Thrawn's relentless surveillance? Aava and Averin sprint through the dimly lit chamber, their breaths ragged as they activate hidden passages. The drone's whirring grows louder, their lights casting eerie shadows across the walls. Protocol 216 forbids reverse options. They must proceed or face capture. Aava glances at Averin, who nods grimly, and together they dive into a narrow tunnel. The tunnel twists and turns, leading them deeper into the complex labyrinth. Suddenly, the lights flicker out, plunging them into darkness. Aava fumbles for her light stick, but it fails to ignite. Averin reaches for his own, his fingers trembling as he struggles to activate it. "What's happening?" Averin whispers, fear creeping into his voice. Before they can react, a series of low hums resonate through the tunnel, and the walls begin to close in around them. The space narrows until Aava and Averin are forced to crouch, their backs pressed against the cold stone. Protocol 216's mandate of no reverse options has sealed their fate. They must find a way out, or be trapped forever in this dark, endless corridor. Will their trust in Protocol 216 lead them to safety or doom?